What is up, guys? My name is Matt from Magic the Great Ink, and today I got a new blue-red deck tech for you. It's going to be blue-red budget Prowess-Storm deck. I say Storm and Prowess in an uncertain way because I'm not sure which to call it. You know, we're playing Storm Chaser Mage, which has Prowess, and Mercurial Geist, which can go off a Storm. But we're not playing any other things that would go with that. And then we're playing Enigma Drake and Cryptic Serpent, which go off instants and sorceries in the graveyard. So it's not kind of either, and it's not really an Enigma Drake deck. It's a combination of all that I've kind of found a sweet spot in the middle for, and the deck works pretty well against other aggro types, especially not things with flying. So let's get into it. Alright, let's get to the creatures. You guys know I like talking about the creatures first for whatever reason. We're going to play 4 Storm Chaser Mage, 4 Enigma Drake, 3 Mercurial Geist, and 3 Cryptic Serpents. Storm Chaser Mage is, you know, that Prowess card I was talking about. Enigma Drake, you know, I've already talked about all the creatures we play in the intro, but, you know. Cryptic Serpent is a new thing from Amonkhet, along with Enigma Drake. Both work with instants and sorceries in the graveyard. Unfortunately, Cryptic Serpent does not fly. It's the only creature in the deck that doesn't fly, which is okay. We have a few ways of getting around that, but it is just, most of the time, a 2 or 3 mana 6/5, which is perfect by our standards since we're only playing 22 lands. We're only playing 3 Mercurial Geist because, again, we're playing 22 lands. Don't want to draw into this when we only have 2 or 3 lands out and we need to hit a land drop. On the contrary to that, we do have a lot of ways to draw cards in this deck and filter through it pretty quickly. So, hitting lands isn't too hard. You actually end up flooding yourself because you will get 5, 6 lands out if the game goes on that long. It's a pretty aggro deck. And you're like, okay, that's great. We have a few cards in the non-creature spells that we will get to here in a few moments that help us, you know, get those lands out of our hands and draw into better stuff. But anyway, those are the creatures. Most of the times, Mercurial Geist, Enigma Drake, and Cryptic Serpent windows of the game. Storm Chaser Mage is just a good early body that can help us deal some damage. Alright, so for the non-creature spells, I'm going to go over the pump spells first. You know, we have a lot of things going on here in the non-creature spell section of this deck tech. So, but we're going to go over the pump spells first. We're going to play 2 Built to Smash, 4 Invigorated Rampage, 2 Slip Through Space, excuse me, and 4 Insult to Injury. I know Slip Through Space isn't a pump spell, but it can help get our creatures through with combat damage, which Cryptic Serpent needs because it doesn't fly. I know that Insult to Injury, or the Insult half, is not a pump spell, but this actually kind of is. It just gives all your creatures double strike, and it's, you know, a worse version of double strike since it's not actually, you deal first strike and then combat damage, but you know, it is really good, and it's like 95% of the time when we ever play this card, we win the game because it's just so powerful. Built to Smash is just 1 mana 3/3, and Invigorated Rampage is one of the best pump spells we can give our creatures. We can give it to 2 creatures, which can be really good. Most of the times, if you find yourself, you have 2 creatures out, and then on turn 5, if you happen to hit 5 lands in a row, you just Insult to Injury, Invigorated Rampage, both those creatures, and if maybe it's an Enigma Drake and a Mercurial Geist, you just win the game just like that. So, that's pretty good. Insult to Injury, the Insult half, is probably the best card in the deck. Another problem I had with this deck is drawing into pump spells. We don't need them. Maybe they removed our creatures, they board wiped. We need to start drawing into more creatures. That is the problem with the deck, is if we get board wiped, we're only playing 14 creatures in the deck out of 60 cards. It's less than a fourth of the time. So every 4 cards, you're going to draw into a creature. So that's kind of the problem we have. Again, we'll get to some of the stuff where we can, you know, get through our deck and dig through it. Alright, let's just talk about all the other spells we're playing. We're going to play 4 Censor, 4 Collective Defiance, and 4 Take Inventory. Censor is a counter spell that you can cycle, which helps you dig for stuff when it no longer becomes reliable. Also, it's really just in there to counter removal spells. We don't really care if they're putting out huge creatures, or maybe they even put out a Aetherworks Marvel, we'd probably want to counter that. But if they put out Aetherworks Marvel, we're kind of okay with it, because the best thing they can hit with that in that type of deck is either Whirler Virtuosa, if we have a whole bunch of flyers out, or Ulamog. Not too worried about an Ulamog, because we can end the game pretty much once we get a few creatures out, we can end the game with 2 spells. So Censor is in there to either fill our grave for things like Cryptic Serpent or Enigma Drake, or to counter removal spells. Collective Defiance is just like Insult to Injury. Those two are like the best non-creature spells we have in this deck. It discards our hand, and we draw that many cards. It's really good for filling up our grave for things like Enigma Drake. Also, if you just pay like the 2 extra, you can just deal 4 damage to a creature, 3 damage to them, you discard your hand, draw new cards, maybe you draw some more pump spells from that. All of a sudden, you just win the game, if you have that much mana. It's really in there just for that first ability. We can discard our hand. Originally, I was playing Fateful Showdown, but it's 4 mana. Most of the times, you're only going to discard like 2 or 3 cards. So it'll deal 3 or 2 damage for 4 mana, which isn't that good. So we went with Collective Defiance. It's got much more versatility. It's one of our only removal spells. And then Take Inventory. It's pretty self-explanatory. We have things like Collective Defiance that discard our hand. Take Inventory can get discarded, and if we draw into a new one, we just draw 2 more cards. And it can work well if you have like a Mercurial Geist and a Storm Chaser Mage out. You play a Take Inventory, you draw a card, and you start just banging with that card. So I definitely wanted to play the full 4 there. On to the lands. I already told you, I think multiple times, we're only playing 22 lands. It's just going to be 11 islands and 11 mountains. The problem with this deck is that we are very, very aggro. There's a lot of 2 mana, 3 mana spells here. And if we don't have like the double blue or the double red when we need it, it can be a problem for us. So if you already have like stuff like Spire Bluff Canal, or maybe a few Wandering Fumarolles, go ahead and throw that in. I wouldn't throw in tap lands or an Evolving Wilds. I know Wandering Fumarole is a tap land, but it's also a creature. Anyway, don't throw in Evolving Wilds. You really don't want tap lands. If you top deck a Evolving Wilds when you need an untapped land, you are going to be mad at yourself. Originally, I was playing 4 Evolving Wilds, and I got too mad because I lost the game. I lost a match because I top decked an Evolving Wilds when I needed just any untapped land to win the game that turn. So we're not playing any Evolving Wilds, so that can be a problem. Spire Bluff Canal can help us fix that early game mana. Before we head to the sideboard, we're going to go over the upgrade section. I haven't really done this in my other videos where I talk about what you can do to upgrade the deck. There's not many really upgrades you can make to this deck other than Chandra Flamecaller. She's 6 mana, which is a problem, so I'd probably only play 2, maybe 3 of her. She could put 3/1, creatures out for us, which could be really, really good if you have an insult. You play Chandra on turn 6 if you hit all your land drops. You do her zeroic ability. Discard your hand, draw a whole bunch of cards. Next turn, maybe you drew into an Insult to Injury. You do her +1, you put 2 3/1s out, you already have some other stuff out, you play an Insult to Injury, maybe a few other pump spells, and you just deal 40 damage. Chandra is like perfect for this deck in every way, shape, or form. The problem is she's 6 mana, so I wouldn't bet on her winning the game for us most of the time. You don't want to draw her into your opening hand or anything like that. But if you did have Chandra Flamecaller, I would probably put 2 of her in and maybe take out maybe a 2 Built to Smash, and maybe take out a Collective Defiance and throw in another land, just in case, because you do want to hit those lands if you're trying to hit a Chandra Flamecaller. So that's probably the only upgrades other than the lands I'd make to the deck. Otherwise, it does pretty well for itself. Censors are a pretty expensive card. Collective Defiance is somewhat expensive for budget players. But yeah, that's like the only upgrade I'd make to the deck. Alright, on to the sideboard. We're mostly going to be playing counters and removal in the sideboard. We're going to play 3 Ceremonious Rejection against things like Aetherworks Marvel and Mardu Vehicles, 2 Dispels to keep our guys from being removed, 4 Magma Sprays against zombies, 2 Negates, again, against removal spells, or maybe they're playing... I've seen a Planeswalker deck, a 4-color Planeswalker deck, kind of roam around. I've seen it a while. or a few times, excuse me. So negate can be good against that, and can stop removal. One more slip through space, just in case they're playing things like Whirler Virtuoso, and they're just putting chump blockers for days in the air and totally ruining your lands. And then 3 Sweltering Suns, which is probably the most expensive card. Actually, it is the most expensive card in the sideboard. But it is very, very necessary. This really doesn't hit our creatures. With Storm Chaser Mage, you play it, the Prowess ability goes off first, because it says whenever you cast. So then he becomes a 2/4, you deal 3 damage to everyone, your guy lives. Mercurial Geist is the only creature that will get affected by this, which is kind of unfortunate, but you can always cycle it, which is nice. Enigmatic Drake and Cryptic Serpent don't either. So we definitely wanted to play 3, mostly against zombies, maybe some other aggro formats like a red-white or Naya Humans deck, or, you know, they're playing an aggro deck of sorts and you want to just clear the board. This is really good. Literally the best board wipe we can make, other than maybe Engulf the Shore, which really isn't a board wipe for us. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see some other videos of mine, just click here and here. And if you want to subscribe, either click this logo or hit that sub button below. Thanks again for watching.